Hello and welcome to this new video. So today, as I indicated last week, I wanted to show a concrete example of what can be done right and what can be done wrong when characterizing the hero, more particularly concerning a chosen one or an unchosen. Indeed, in last week's video, I arrived at the conclusion that the fact that the hero is a chosen or unchosen one was in the end not that important, because what counts is that the hero is well written, more so in the case of a chosen one. And on this one, I said that we should be careful on how to bring their status as a chosen one in order to not rely on it too much, because it could hinder the story by focusing too much on what chose the chosen one rather than focusing on the hero itself. And so this week, I wanted to demonstrate that with a concrete and recent example, and this example will be Mulan. With the release of the new live-action movie Mulan by Disney, and given the discrepancies in depicting Mulan compared to the animated Mulan of 1998, it gives me a perfect example of what makes a good hero and of course what makes a bad one. So, to be clear, I won't make a deep analysis of the movies or even a review of them, even though I can't hide the fact that the new Mulan is catastrophically bad, where the animated movie, despite not being a masterpiece, was still a very good movie, which succeeded in what it wanted to achieve. Both films, even though their story is quite similar, gives us completely opposite ways to depict the hero, which is the interest of taking this example. So, to summarize quickly, for those who didn't see any of the movies and who don't care about the spoilers. So the movies play during the Imperial China, and an enemy power try to invade the country in order to crush the emperor. The emperor so takes an edict compelling every family to send one man to fight against the enemy. But Mulan's father, who's old and almost handicapped, only has daughters, and only one in the animated movies. So he decides to go himself, and he'd rather die than losing the honor of his family. But before I could leave, Mulan got ahead of him, steal his armor and sword, and go take her father's place in the conscription, pretending to be a man. So, in the animated movie, Mulan is a typical case of unchosen one. If we take back the diagram I showed last week, so she has nothing exceptional, she never fought and it doesn't seem to be in her temperament, there is no prophecy, no hidden power, no mentor, trial, or magical weapon. She doesn't seem adventurous, and lastly, the movie plays a lot on the help of the gods. As the spirit of her family, they decide to send the help of a divinity to help her. But instead, it's only Mushu who kind of sends himself too. And Mushu, he doesn't have real power except being a living cigarette lighter. In the end, what drives Mulan? It's herself. Had she been a man, she wouldn't have had the choice, but since she's a woman, she doesn't have the choice either, and her place is at home and finding a husband, a fate that she's not really fighting, by the way. But facing her father's hardship, she makes the choice of going against all the convention, and she goes anyway, even though it means risking her life and maybe dishonoring her family if she gets uncovered. In the new movie, however, it's quite different. Mulan has powers since her childhood, the Chi, which she develops herself without mentor or help, and which gives her innate fighting skills. So when she decides to go and take her father's place, in reality, she was only looking for it, because as a born female warrior, her place is not really at home, where she breaks everything with her stunts. Where by contrast, the first Mulan had absolutely no fighting capabilities, and she didn't even wanted to have some. We can add that the Mulan of 2020 seems to be helped by the gods, since the phoenix which protects her family comes to help her in the worst situation, when Mushu of the animated Mulan was more here as a coach in order to push her to reveal her inner strength. With such differences from the start, it's not surprising to see events in the movies unfold in a very different manner. When the 1998 Mulan faces the enemy's army with her little squad, it's her courage and her cleverness which allows her to triumph by almost killing her. On the side of the 2020 Mulan, at the same point in the story, that's where her true power gets revealed, and she defeats the opposing army all by herself, hardly breathing heavy, and barely has she messy hair. And when we look at the final confrontation with the bad guy, it's quite the same. The animated Mulan once again has to revert to ruse to fight the odds in order to defeat the bad guy. Nothing easily won, and she needs her friends' help to succeed. The 2020 Mulan, however, she goes straight to the fight herself, got saved without real justification by a deus ex machina, then she fights the bad guy without real difficulties, on equal footing, and defeats him without any injury. The only sacrifice being that she loses her family sword, but it had no specific power or use, and it will be replaced in the end anyway. So to summarize, for the 2020 Mulan, we have the worst cliches of the chosen one. She's chosen by her power, and that allows her to do anything almost without training, where if we take other examples, such as Buffy or the Green Lanterns, when the power chooses them, it's only the start of a long road of training and hardship before they could master their power. But for Mulan, it's innate and doesn't require any efforts. Also, her power allows her to perform very unlikely prowesses without getting her out of breath or having any adverse effect or cost. And lastly, the gods are with her each time she needs it to save her at the last minute, whether it's the Phoenix when she got lost, or the witch when the bad guy shoots her. On the other hand, regarding the Mulan from 1998, it's completely the contrary, as she is not a chosen one. So she has to train very hard just to have a small chance of surviving. She has to rely systematically on her intellect or ruse in order to compensate her lack of physical strength or the power difference facing the enemies. Lastly, the gods are supporting her, but it's more to motivate her to do her best or give advices rather than do the work in the place of Mulan. As a result, we can only really identify ourselves to the Mulan of 98, who, like most of the audience, don't have anything special at the start of their lives, but we learn through Mulan that if you're willing and determined and if you work hard for it, you can accomplish incredible things. On the other hand, the 2020 Mulan is not satisfying as a character. Everything is given to her by birth, just because, and after, she doesn't even have to work hard to develop her gifts. As soon as she has a difficulty, either her power will help her without efforts, or the gods will intervene to save her, once again, just like that. To conclude, this example demonstrates how, if badly used, all elements of the chosen one can work against the interest of the story, which becomes just a display of power instead of a more compelling internal growth of the character. Where in the case of an unchosen one, who has to accomplish the quest without all that, everything has to rely on the hero herself, meaning she has to evolve and grow, which is far more satisfying for the audience. And on this last note, thanks for having watched this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and see you next time!